Wow, that has to be one of the greatest episodes of Game of Thrones ever. That had me on my feet like, come on, she doesn't even go here. That's right. The Trial of Seven has come to a bloody end. So much so that I had a stab counter for Dunk. And by the end, I was like, it's just a flesh wound. There's a lot to cover in this week's episode, from Dunk's origin story, some clues on why Sir Arland is drunk all the time, and did Prince Mar purposely try to kill his brother. And because this battle is so quick, we'll be taking a look at the background to see some of the other fun little details that happen. All this and more will be discussed, but please note there will be no spoilers beyond this episode. Before we begin, I write, edit, and produce these videos all by myself. So every comment, like, and subscription really helps the video get into that YouTube algorithm. So make like Aryann's shield and smash that like and subscribe button. The episode opens on our 7 warriors arranged in a circle like that of the Faith of the Seven. The bird's eye view shot is almost like God himself watching from above. The very act of a trial of 7 is rooted in the religious theology of the Andals who brought this religion. Sometimes referred to as simply the faith over to Westeros some 6,000 years ago. Although this number is debated by the Maesters, unlike a traditional trial by combat, a trial of 7 is considered a more divine and definitive form of judgment. Why have one aspect of God decide your fate when you can have all 7? It should be noted that although the religion is called the Faith of the Seven, they still believe in one God, one that is composed of 7 aspects or faces. And you'll hear them use the word gods, even though technically it's only one. The gods will let us know. On paper, the Targaryens have followed the Faith of the Seven since Aegon's conquest over 200 years ago. He knew that it would be easier to rule the 7 kingdoms and receive support from the High Septim if they converted from their Trajal. Behind the scenes, though, the Targaryens maintained several of their old religious customs, such as incestuous marriage. In House of the Dragon, Daemon and Rhaenyra Targaryen engage in a traditional Valyrian wedding, complete with blood bond, high Valyrian vows, and marking each other's foreheads with blood. This was done far from the prying eyes of the common folk on the shores of Dragonstone. But back to this trial of 7. The last time we saw one was roughly 170 years ago when King Maegor I took on a rebellious contingent of the faith to see who would rule Westeros. It was an absolute bloodbath, with Maegor being the only survivor, so you can see just how rare an event like this is. It's so rare that even Prince Mar didn't know of it. Last episode ended with the reveal that Prince Bor, first in line to the Iron Throne, would fight alongside Dunk in this battle. It's a stunning twist that pits the prince against his own brother, nephew, and 3 of his own King's Guard. Baelor knew that Dunk was acting how a true knight should when he defended Tansel against Prince Aryann's wrath. He also saw that Aryann's actions, not only against Tansel, but by piercing Sir Humfrey's steed a day earlier, an action that caused the people to storm the arena, left a stain on the Targaryen reputation. So by joining the accused, he's attempting to prove that the crown stands for justice, not just the whims of princes. Finally, as Bor himself will note, joining Dunk severely handicaps the other team. 3 of Prince Aryann's men are members of the King's Guard, and the King's Guard are sworn to harm royal blood. Thus, Bor can spend his time fending them off while they have no recourse. Rising questions whether this is honorable, to which Bor says the gods will let them know. For reference, the 7 members of the accusers are Prince Aryann, Prince Mar, Prince Daeron, Sir Steffon Fossaway, and the 3 members of the King's Guard, Sir Roland Craw, Sir Donald of Duskendale, and Sir William Wilde. On the accused side, we have Sir Duncan the Tall, Prince Bor, Sir Lionel Baratheon, Sir Raymond Fossaway, who was Ned only minutes ago, Sir Robin Rissling, Sir Humphrey Beesbury, and Sir Humphrey Harding. Each member of the accused has their own reason for fighting alongside Dunk. These range from honor, revenge, and even love of the game. Thankfully, Prince Bor takes charge, telling them not to panic, keep formation, and hold onto their mounts as long as possible. A traditional joust is composed of 2 parts: the tilt, in which competitors try to dismount their opponent on horseback with lance, and then melee combat. You want to remain on your horse as long as possible. The sheer weight of armor, on average between 60 to 100 pounds, can lead to exhaustion within minutes. Unlike a traditional jousting match, a trial of 7 has no point system to determine the winner. The trial is over once one side is either killed, yields, withdraws their accusation, or is incapacitated. Keeping your cool is easy for veterans such as Humphrey Harding. He calls Duncan Raymond green as they puke themselves from anxiety. Dunk had already been puking a few days ago when he thought he was going to fight. And why have I been vomiting all morning? Remember that Duncan and Raymond have never really tested themselves, at least not on this scale, and against some of the best trained knights in the kingdom. Before the battle, Lionel makes a rather odd remark about Baelor's mom loving him best. Mother loved you best, huh? Prince Bor is the son of King Daeron II and Mariah Martell, the eldest daughter of the Prince of Dorne. While there's no explicit mention that Mariah loved Bor more than his other brothers, Prince Mar makes clear his resentment at the amount of attention his brother got over him, with the book stating that he was ever in the shadow of his eldest brother. Bor is also the only one of Mariah's children that has black Dornish hair, not the traditional Targaryen silver. So, when Lionel says it's a shame his mother loved him best, he's insinuating that Mar will fight more fiercely due to years of pent-up resentment. It also foreshadows and gives context to what happens to Bor at the end of the episode. It's safe to say that Dunk has completely changed his position on Egg. From a kid he initially wanted to go away, he's now saying he best be here when he gets back. He'll even do a call back to episode 2, threatening to hunt him down with his dog if he runs off. "You best be here when I come back. You best be here when I get back." Enough. Proceeding over the trial is a Septon from House Ashford. Septons are priests of the faith of the Seven, and considering this trial's religious element, it makes sense he kicks it off, stating that the Seven will peer inside our mortal hearts to find the truth. He'll invoke the aspect of the warrior to grant victory to the innocent and reveal the falseness of the guilty. Now, the direction of this episode has to be one of the most fascinating aspects of the battle. The director could have easily cut to all the knights battling it out across the battlefield. Instead, director Owen Harris focuses on Dunk, literally putting us inside his helmet as the sounds of the chaos and crowd drown out around him. It makes for a claustrophobic feel, seeing the battle transpire through his perspective, one in which you never know where the next attack will come from. As the horn signals the joust to commence, we get a brief shot of Prince Daeron, Mar's eldest son and brother to Aryan, who was forced to take part in the trial. Last episode, he promised Dunk that he'd leap off his horse after the first tilt and play dead on the ground. So bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. You'll notice a quick shot of the green feather on his helm. Not only did this help others identify him, but green is symbolic of the young untested knights who have never seen real combat. Laughter green BOYS. In fact, Raymond Fosway would famously change the red apple on his shield to green to differentiate himself from his cousin, stating he'd rather be green than rot. As the horn blares, Dunk hesitates from the stands. Egg yells for him to go, and soon he's off face to face against the bright flame himself. Unlike traditional joust, squires are not allowed to help once a trial of 7 has commenced. This is why you'll see Egg in the stands instead of on the front line. Once a knight's lance is broken, they can remain on their horse but can switch weapons. While Dunk is physically larger and stronger than Aryan, the odds couldn't be stacked more in favor of the young prince. Aryan has the best weapons, armor, and steed one could ask for. That's not to mention the years of training by Westeros' finest warriors. Dunk, on the other hand, has the cheapest equipment and was trained by an old drunk. But as Lord Ashford stated in episode 2, sword and shield do not make a knight. The battle begins with an injury that would surely kill a lesser man. Part of Aryan's lance lodges in Dunn's torso. In the background, we can see a member of the King's Guard beating the out of Sir Humphrey Harding. It's pure chaos and difficult to tell what's going on. But before Dunk can even get his bearings, he's knocked out by Aryan's Morning Star. We flash back 13 years earlier to the aftermath of the Battle of Red Grass Field. This was the final decisive battle in the Civil War that was known as the First Blackfyre Rebellion. It pitted the current King Daeron II against his half-brother, the bastard Daemon Blackfyre. In fact, we'll hear young Dunk refer to him this episode as the Black Dragon. Daemon believed he had a stronger claim to the throne based on 3 major points. First, Daemon was bestowed by then King Aegon IV the Valyrian steel sword of Blackfyre, a blade that had been passed down from king to king since Aegon the Conqueror. Second, Aegon IV legitimized all his bastard children, allowing their last names to be Targaryen by law. And third, there were questions surrounding the legitimacy of King Daeron's parentage, which if true, meant he had no claim to the throne. Long story short, this led to a brutal civil war in which the loyalist forces of King Daeron under the command of Prince Bor defeated the rebellious Daemon at the Battle of Redgrass Field. We can see King's Landing in the background as Daemon was on his way to seize the throne with his army. A young Dunk can be seen scavenging in the aftermath of the battle, picking up pieces of metal to be exchanged for coin. You'll notice a slew of arrows scattered across the corpses of the dead. One of the more significant aspects of this battle was a Brynden Rivers and his elite force of 300 archers known as the Raven's Teeth. Raven is kind of a cheeky name since Brynden Rivers will eventually become the three-eyed raven who we've seen in House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. In my past videos, I've speculated that he might even be taking forms of people around the Ashford tournament, such as the fortune teller, as he possessed the ability to glamour others into thinking they were looking at someone else. Dunk finds a knight from House Hightower crushed under the weight of his steed. During the Battle of Red Grass Field, House Hightower took half its troops to fight alongside the Loyalists and half to fight alongside Daemon, ensuring that whoever won, they'd be on the victorious side. In fact, in the second Duncan Egg Nola, Sir Eustace Osprey grumbles that if Hightower and Tarbeck and Oakhart and Butterwell had lent us their full strength instead of trying to keep one foot in each camp, it could all have turned the other way. So it's kind of ironic. We have a member of House Hightower here who's now fencing between life and death. It's here we're also introduced to Rafe, a fellow street urchin from Flea Bottom. This is a character who isn't mentioned until the third Nola, the Mystery Knight. The book is purposely vague on Dunn's life at the time. It only states that Dunk hung around 3 other kids known as the Little Monsters, Rafe, Pudding, and Ferret, and that later he'd be saved by Sir Arlen. Anything other than that was made up for the show. We'll hear Rafe mention Ferret and Pudding as they make their journey back to King's Landing. Rafe tells Dunk not to kill the crushed man as he could be used for ransom, but alas, he does not make it. She believes nobles ought to be given some special words upon their death so they don't end up in hell like the rest of them. As we'll see, it's a pretty grim life for the poor of Flea Bottom. Duncan and Rafe make their way back to King's Landing along the King's Road. This is the same road Arya Stark will take on her journey away from King's Landing in Season 2. Rafe has on her a standard Targaryen infantry helm as the two discuss the High Tower man calling out for his mother. The name of this episode is in the name of the mother. It has several meanings from Dunn's literal mother, who he never knew, to the aspect of the mother from the Faith of the Seven. In fact, when Sir Arlen saves, Dunk yells in the name of the mother, "Leave that boy be." The aspect responsible for the protection of the innocent. Along their journey, they see a body of House Stokeworth taken along the road. It's possible this is the body of Lord Stokeworth, who 3 years prior Sir Arlen had bested in a battle at a melee at King's Landing. In fact, this is one of the ways Prince Boar is reminded of Sir Arlen of Penny Tree. He overthrew Lord Stokeworth in the melee at King's Landing. Flea Bottom is just as rat-infested as ever as the wounded from battle use the streets as their own triage. This is where they meet a one-handed, corrupt member of the City Watch named Allister. You might remember it was Daemon Targaryen who once commanded the gold cloaks of the Watch. But this guy's cloak is so dirty, it hardly looks gold at all. Allister isn't in the book, and this whole story of Rafe and Dunk saving up to Flea Bottom was created just for the show. But I like the detail of this guy having one hand. It could mean he lost the other for stealing or even striking a member of the royal family. Rafe and Dunk received 2 silver stag coins for their scavenging, which is the 3rd highest coin denomination in all of Westeros. However, the smith won't take these Blackfire leather straps, which I interpreted as not being welcome in King's Landing. And just a little attention to detail here. I love the man writhing in pain as he's being treated to his wounds in the background. Dunk and Rafe are saving up to leave Westeros for the free cities across the narrow sea in Essos. We've seen such free cities in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon like Bravos, Volantes, and Pentos. For them, anything is better than the slums of King's Landing. But the thought of Dunn's mother coming back for him gives him reason for pause. A thought which Rafe thinks is stupid. If Dunk wants a family, he can't wait around for it. He's got to go out there and get it. This might be what spurs Dunn to later follow Sir Arlen, the man he'll later call his family. The next morning, we'll see Dunk, this goat. He has a love for animals. We've seen him petting his horse and even this rat last episode. It's these small moments that really endear us to him and paint him as a kind of gentle giant. With the end of the war, fares for travel outside the city have doubled, leaving Rafe and Dunk back to square one. They're stopped by Allister, who wants his ale skin back, something Rafe nicked off him a day prior. This ends up with him finding their stash of coin. They probably spent months, if not years, saving this up. So when Allister decides to steal it, Rafe fights back and gets her throat slit. This is when Dunk first meets Sir Arlen of Penny Tree. This man is totally intoxicated, and his rescue of Dunk is anything but a good example of professional swordsmanship. It's real, brutal, and dirty, mimicking the literal pigs alongside them. This gets at the root of Sir Arlen's knighthood. He's helping those in need because of his knightly duty. He's not seeking fame or coin. He literally kills these dudes and goes back to drinking. In almost every scene, we'll see that Arlen is drunk. If you paid close attention, you might have seen this small helm engraved by Sir Arlen's camp. In the book, Sir Arlen's nephew and squire at the time, Roger of Penny Tree, was killed at the Battle of Red Grass Field, which happened just days prior. The purple flowers on his grave are the same kind Dunk leaves on Arlen's grave in Episode 1. So it's very likely that Arlen uses drink to ease the loss of his nephew. A common theme of the episode is not being there to protect those in need. This is why Dunk apologizes to Rafe after her death, and why he'll apologize to Prince Boar as he collapses to the ground. It's also the catalyst for him wanting to become a knight. Perhaps one day he can help the innocent like his hero, Sir Arlen. With a gash in his leg from the corrupt watchman, Dunk follows Sir Arlen. We'll see more star and large tree motifs throughout the journey, 2 symbols found on Dunk's shield. I like this image of Dunk whittling a stick, just like we saw Egg do. After countless drunken nights and following Arland on his hedge knight journey, Dunk eventually collapses and is told by Sir Arland to get up. This transports us back to the Ashford battlefield. The battle is just as chaotic as we left it. Dunk is absolutely clobbered in the head by Arian's Morning Star, only to then be knocked senseless by Mar on horseback with his mace. Although we will see moments later Mar brutally dismounted by Sir Robin Rissling using a lance he's picked up off the ground. Dunk is able to mount Arian, and this is at least 250 lb of man with close to 100 lb of armor on top. It would be absolutely suffocating. From the stands, Egg watches in horror as Dunk is stabbed multiple times through the body, including his leg and hand. In fact, I counted at least 9 times a blade penetrates his chain mail and into his skin. The dagger used to stab Dunk through the hand is the same one Arian used to smash the walnuts last episode. Also in the stands are Lords Manfred Dundarian and Terrell, both houses whom Sir Arland had served. We'll see that it's our boy Raymond Fosway who knocks Arian off Sir Duncan. Raymond's subsequently pummeled by his cousin Stefan coming from the other side. But I think the turning point for Dunk is this absolutely brutal slash through Arian's unprotected inner thigh. This could easily hit an artery and lead to Arian's death. In fact, Mar upon seeing this calls out for his boy, but he's held back by Sir Robin and Sir Lionel. And check out the broken antlers on Lionel's helm. Dunk is absolutely drained and collapses. Arian calls for him to yield as Dunk nearly passes out. If Dunk is incapacitated, the accusers will win and he will be deemed guilty. In fact, Arian calls out that Sir Duncan is dead, prompting the hornblower to almost end the trial before the voice of Sir Arland rouses in Duncan the power to get up. Even the entire crowd cheers him on. Dun gets Arian to the ground, and there's something ironic about the shield that's supposed to protect the prince being used to beat him to a pulp. We'll see his helm flip open, revealing his bloody carved dragon-like teeth. It is in this moment that Arian yields. As Dunk drags him over to the nobles, we can see a few battles in the background. Mar takes on Robin Rising and Lionel Baratheon as Raymond confronts Stefan. But when Arian officially withdraws his accusation in front of the nobles, the horn is blown and the trial is over. And I love how Dunk just tosses him aside like trash. The episode's final scene shows Steely, Peyton, and Raymond taking care of the savagely wounded Dunk. In fact, that initial lance wound drove the rings of this chain mail deep into his flesh, and Steely will need to cut the mail right off him. Although the accused were victorious, they sustained the most deaths. Both Sir Humphrey Harding and Sir Humphrey Beesbury, the two brothers-in-law we saw in the Battle of the Humfer from Episode 3, perished in the first charge. In the book, Sir Beesbury is said to have been killed by Donald of Duskendale. Darren is said to have sustained a broken foot after his horse stepped on it, and Sir William Wilde, one of the 3 members of the King's Guard, was carried from the field, unable to feel anything. In walks Prince Bor, and even though Dunk is in tremendous pain, Dunk kneels telling the prince, "I am your man." This is the equivalent of a formal offer of service. While Dunk has no lands and no master, he's offering Blor the most valuable thing he owns, his life and his skill in combat. By telling Bor he is his man, he's also acknowledging he owes his life to him. Without Baelor's participation, the trial would have never happened. Baelor promises to send over Maester Yorwell to treat Dunk after he has tended to Prince Mar. The tragedy of the scene is that it looks like Baelor is about to accept Dunk as his man until he asks for help taking off his helm. There they uncover the grievous extent of his injury. The entire back half of his skull has caved in, the result of a devastating mace hit to his gorge. He collapses onto the ground as the episode cuts to black. Since this is a non-spoiler video, I won't say whether or not he's dead, but judging by the wound, I think you can make a pretty good guess. Remember Darren's dream of Dunk in front of a dead dragon? Could this be what the dream meant all along? But what you're probably wanting to know is if Prince Mar, who hit his brother in the back of the head, purposely tried to kill his brother. Maybe in an effort to get closer to the throne. Well, we know Mar held resentment for his brother. There's no evidence to support that he wanted his brother dead. In fact, there's evidence to the contrary. Mar never wanted Arian to have a trial of 7 in the first place. And when Bor reveals himself to fight alongside Dunk, Mar wonders if his brother's taken a leave of his senses. Mar never wanted to battle his brother, let alone kill him. And even if it was on purpose, that still leaves 5 others ahead of him in line to the throne. That's because the royal family uses a system of succession called primogeniture, meaning the eldest male child seises the throne. This is in contrast to what Viserys Targaryen tried to do with Rhaenys over 100 years ago by having his eldest daughter take the throne. That system was called absolute primogeniture, and it's what the British royal family currently uses. If Bor is indeed dead, it completely changes the history of Westeros. It also means Egg is one step closer to the throne. But what does this mean for Dunk? He's been cleared of guilt, but what will become of him? No doubt he'll be known as a legendary knight after this battle, but at what cost? Will he continue on as a hedge knight or perhaps take up service in some royal house? We'll just have to tune in next week to find out. Now, I turn it over to you. What did you think of this week's episode? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And for more bad takes, you can follow and subscribe to our channel Movies and Series Reset. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.